Speaking of fingers in the dark.
And there's the old one.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is, episode 210. We're recording this on July 18th, 2012. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And we are short and Alan Malventano, which is fine because, whatever. He's doing important governmental crap or something, and it's not very important. So we've got, housekeeping stuff off the front at the beginning, what I meant to say. So I guess we're in our second to last week of being on the Twit network. If you're watching us live, you're worried about where you're going to be able to find this type of humor and information combined into this perfect entity that is the PC Perspective Podcast. You'll still be able to get it. PCPer.com/live is the place to go. If you go to PCPer.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see like a schedule that lists all of our live events, included the podcast, This Week in Computer Hardware, other things that might be coming up. And if you click that little icon that looks like a radio tower, because we live in the 60s, you will be taken to the PCPer.com/live page. And there you will see a video, and if Burke scrolls down, you'll get the window inside of a window inside of the window effect, which is always really fun. So like there it goes. It's amazing.
Wow.
I could watch that all day. So we're not going anywhere. We're still doing the show. Check us out there, and in a couple of weeks we'll be all on our own, and we'll see how grown up we are. We'll see. Other interesting news: you can join me next weekend at Fry's in Sunnyvale. Not this coming weekend, but next weekend. Asus is hosting an event at the Fry's at 1077 East Arquez. I'm going to go with. Is that right, you think? Burke, you would know. East Arquez Avenue in Sunnyvale, California.
That's correct.
They will have prizes. They're going to have demonstrations, overclocking demonstrations. I think Antec, Asus, NVIDIA, and somebody else who I am a Patriot are going to be in attendance. I'm going to host a kind of panel, I guess, on Saturday afternoon there. I don't know the exact time yet, but I'll let you know for sure when that is. So I'm going to moderate some people from each of those companies kind of discussing the future of hardware, where we're at, where we're going, that kind of thing. And if you want to come out, stop by, say hello, see all the cool demonstrations and stuff, you are welcome to do so. I'd love to have you guys out there. And coming up, it's time for another plug, the PC Perspective Hardware Workshop 2012 edition to be held at QuakeCon 2012 edition on August 4th in Dallas, Texas, at QuakeCon, obviously. This is the place you want to be to get just like tons of free hardware. I can't guarantee you'll get it, but we'll have lots of it, and somebody will get it. So it could be you. We'll have people from NVIDIA and MSI and Corsair there. They're our primary sponsors, kind of getting us the stage time and all that kind of stuff. We've got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of hardware to give away. Last year we filled our room of 1,800 people. Is that right, Josh? I think we filled that place up. We actually ran out of raffle tickets. Yeah, so this time we will not run out of raffle tickets. And, no promises, I guess. But we'll have as much stuff and cool things going on as we did last year.
Is Ken going to be there to be able to undo all the raffle tickets and punch him to the...
I think we might try to do that beforehand. I don't know if we're going to get the really cool workspace that we had last year. Apparently those were all booked up, which is really crappy. But we're going to try to do that. And we're going to do some stuff, some different things this year, walk around the BOSC. They're still having a case mod contest. We're being helped out by the Modders Inc. guys with that. So if you want to, if you're coming to the BYOC, you want to, build a new case mod, we'll have entry forms and all that kind of stuff organized for you by the time you get there. So that'll be a lot of fun. And again, even if you can't attend in person, if you go to pcper.com/workshop or pcper.com/live, you will see, you'll be able to watch our workshop there as well. So I don't know, maybe we'll try to live stream some other things if we've got all that stuff set up there and the bandwidth to do it. I don't really know. QuakeCon's going to stream most of that stuff anyway. So that's it. That's all the beginning before the show crap. Let's get into articles and news for this week. What kind of happened this week in the world of PC hardware? last week we gave, I had it set up. It had set up over here, and we kind of just did a preview of it. Oh, we did that on Twitch. We didn't talk about it at all on PC Perspective, so that's good news. All new content for you guys. The Achieva Shimeon or whatever.
Shimmerman.
Yeah, 27-inch monitor review. So this is a 2560 by 1440 27-inch monitor. You can kind of see it here in the video, at least the edge of it. We've talked about it a lot on the show. So there's these Korean branded monitors that people have been buying on eBay. There's a couple of other smaller places apparently that you've been able to find them at, or not smaller places, but bigger places, but slightly more expensive, that type of thing. These are, Ken, you paid $319 shipped from Korea to Cincinnati through air, not on a boat, on a plane, guys, for $319 shipped. Got a tracking number like the next day. All that process of it went great. Obviously, your mileage is going to vary depending on which seller you go to. That's why we linked to our particular seller in there. And so far, we've been fairly impressed. The review has a lot of interesting information in there in terms of the build quality. Just the general kind of look and feel of it, the latency if there is any, and that kind of thing. So, I guess 30-inch panels looks like they may never catch on in a really, really big way, right? So the 30-inch 2560 by 1600 panels that the most popular ones are from Dell. We have, I don't know, like a half a dozen of them here throughout the office for all the testing stuff that we do. And it looks like these 2560 by 14 panels, because these are actually 16 by 9, right? And the other ones are 16 by 10. So this is a 16 by 9 panel. It's the same 16 by 9 panel, actually, that Apple uses in their Thunderbolt display. But it is the next step down in terms of quality, in terms of binning. I don't want to say quality, but in binning. So they call these the A- panels instead of the A panels. So the Apple pays a little bit more. They get the higher quality ones. They're going to have less chance of having dead pixels and that kind of deal. And then they sell the monitor for $1,000. These Korean companies get the A- panels. They still may not have dead pixels. Ours has no dead pixels here today. And they sell this for $320 or $330 shipped to you. You don't get warranty. You get a warranty, I guess, technically, but pretty much if it's not DOA from the seller in Korea, you're on your own after that. So you get a little bit of support issue. There's not a whole lot of features involved in it. There's no on-screen display. There's only brightness control. We actually had a better experience with it than I think we expected, because we were told that you couldn't connect this to laptops because if it couldn't push 2560 by 1440 resolution, it wouldn't accept anything. We had no problem sending it resolutions of 19 by 10. We had to send it 1024 by 768 at one point to do our latency testing, and it didn't have any issues with that. So it may still depend on your specific configuration on your PC or a laptop, but so far we've been really impressed. Ken's already said that he doesn't think he'll ever be able to go back to like a 19 or 22 inch display with 1080p resolution after using one of these. And when you consider the fact that you can buy 3 of these for the price of a Dell 30 inch or the Apple Thunderbolt display, you really start to get into the whole, you're taking a bit of a chance, but if it dies, you can buy 2 more and still save money type of argument.
So Ken, once he went Korean, he's never going back, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, which is not normally how I've heard that phrase, but I guess whatever works. There are other brands. Ken does a really good job of explaining these in the article. There's a Yamakasi Cat Leap, which is my favorite brand. Or Yamakasi is the brand. Cat Leap, I guess, is the model. That one sounds the coolest to me, but apparently didn't have as sturdy of a stand with it. There's a crossover brand, and HP does have one. What was it selling for, Ken? $650. So HP has a 27-inch panel, basically identical to this. It's going to have a little bit better build quality, be my guess. A little bit better features in terms of on-screen display and that kind of thing. But it's $650. You're talking about twice the price again. So, there's a lot more testing and stuff that needs to be done with these kinds of displays before we can make like a really super definitive decision. But I think initial results are really positive for this, right? The only kind of complaint that Ken had right out of the box was that it wasn't the color was very off on it out of the box. So you're going to have to do, and because there's no on-screen display, there's no controller to adjust, color temperature, anything like that on the monitor itself. You have to do that all through Windows, which you can do that through just the Windows control panel. But there's, for $50 or $60, you can get a device like the Pantone Huey Pro or who makes the Spider. I don't remember who makes the Spider device. But you can calibrate your monitor with like an actual device that sits on the display, reads the colors, does all the calibration automatically, and boom, kind of goes from there. And we happen to have a couple of those sitting around the office. So pretty good devices. I don't know. I won't really get into the overclocking thing. There's apparently a version of it that lets you overclock the pixel count and that kind of stuff to get 120 hertz performance out of these 27-inch monitors, which is pretty impressive as well. So yeah, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this kind of the Korean monitor fad that's going on right now?
Let's see if it's still alive in a couple of weeks. Is mostly what I'm concerned about.
And that's a fair thing, but I think the best place to go is, what was the forum that you were doing most of that reading at? 120hertz.net. Is it like spelled out, or is it just HZ? So there are some forums. I know the Hard Forum has a really good display forum as well, where people are buying these. And so if there was a mass death knell of these in a month or in 2 months, I think we would have heard about it, because this has been something that we've been asked about for 4 or 5 months on this podcast and on This Week in Computer Hardware. So yeah, Josh, you were gonna say something too?
Yeah, I think it's great that we've got displays that are going down this far in price. If you really think about how long LCD panels have been produced for, and what you can get in 60 and 60 plus inches for not a whole lot of money. These are only 27-inch. Sure, the pixel density is a lot finer, but they've been producing these damn things, and they've been perfecting them for just years and years and years. And this is going on for 20, 25 years. Yeah. So finally, we've gotten to the point where they can fabricate these pretty rapidly, pretty easily, and without all that many defects. And we're finally starting to see the fruits of that, as well as who was it, the FCC, or who slapped down all those LCD monitor guys for price fixing?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it's nice to see all of the prices going down, and where we can purchase 3 of them in Ifinity. My people.
Yeah. I think this, I think the graphics card guys in general just want to see these higher resolution displays, right? They want, reasons for people to finally upgrade from the GTX 460s that they've had at 1080p resolution. And this will definitely, increases that pixel density. You can ask Ken, all of a sudden you want to turn everything on at this resolution still, and you're going to need a little bit more processing power to do so. So definitely go check out that review. It's been really popular. It's gotten a lot of traffic. These displays just in general have been very popular. I do kind of wish we'd gotten the Cat Leap one, just because it has a cooler name. But maybe we could buy a second one for that. I know one of the comments we had in the article that I don't know if we ever addressed was the bezel size on this, and it's not a very small bezel on the display. I mean, it's a good inch bezel on the display. I don't know if it's hard to tell with the black on black there, but you can kind of see what it is. But we did not tear it apart to see if you could get rid of the bezel and that kind of stuff, which is I think what Jeremy had kind of asked us to do before. Maybe another time. Maybe another time. So what else came on? We did. Tim posted a review of the Corsair Vengeance 1300 and 1500 headsets. He actually did a really good job on this review. Very in depth in terms of the amount of testing he does. Closer look at the hardware. Looking at the build quality themselves, the audio quality for recording through the microphone, and then audio testing in terms of gaming, music, and movies, all that kind of stuff. Long-term use, because we have had these for a while, so he's able to introduce some of that information in there: durability, reliability, comfort, that kind of thing. And he's got some videos in there as well, integrated with it. If you're interested in buying a new gaming headset, the Vengeance 1300 and 1500 have been around for a while, but they're still out there. And because they've been out there, the pricing is actually coming down a little bit, which is helpful as well. The other review that is up this week from us is from Matt Smith, who looked at the Origin Eon 11S. This is a 11-inch gaming notebook. This is kind of one of those. This is one of the things where I think at QuakeCon, at the BYOC, I'm going to be very curious to kind of pay attention to how many people are using notebooks this year as opposed to the last couple of years. I have a feeling it's going to grow quite a bit because, as we've talked about, resolutions of displays haven't really been getting any better yet until maybe we see the proliferation of these things at QuakeCon, which would be really cool. But because of that, the GPUs in notebooks have been getting better, and thus it's much more likely that people will be able to hook up an external monitor, a 1080p display to their notebook and get reasonable gaming performance. So this Origin Eon 11S is an Ivy Bridge Core i7-3720QM. That's the highest end Ivy Bridge mobility part. It also has an NVIDIA GT 650 in it, which is one of their. It's their. I think that's a GK107 based GPU. So it's a pretty good performing GPU. 2 gig frame buffer, 8 gigs of RAM on it, 256 gig SSD, and like I said, an 11-inch 1366 by 768 screen. So it's not a ultra high resolution screen, but if you're going to do gaming on it, maybe like at some place like QuakeCon, you might bring an external monitor with you. Let's see, USB 3.0 ports. That's nice. HDMI output, as we showed you just a second ago as well, and 3.9 pounds. So not super light, but not super heavy either. This is definitely a portable machine. They have a base model starts at $999. The review unit that Matt got priced out at $1,626. And I'll let you guys go through a lot of the user interface and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the portability section, which I believe looks at the battery life, it actually gets really good battery life. If you it's actually it's competing with the Asus N56VM. If you look at the reader test on that, which is 4 hours and 54 minutes versus 4 hours and 12 minutes for the Origin, and that's it's behind, but it's pretty close, especially considering it's going to have a smaller battery because it's such a smaller notebook in general. And then let's see, processor performance is great. If we look at gaming performance, it also does really well. And I think just kind of overall, Matt came away pretty impressed with this. The Alienware M11X has kind of been the poster child for the 11-inch portable gaming market. And that's probably still the case, although I think that machine needs a little bit. I think it just got its Ivy Bridge update as well, if I remember correctly. But yeah, if you look, Civ 5, you're able to play. It was able to play Diablo 3 at native resolution at almost 100 frames per second. With high detail settings. It could play Skyrim, medium detail settings, over 60 frames per second as well, which is really nice. And Battlefield 3 at 55 frames per second, 1366 by 768 medium settings. So it's pretty good gaming performance. And the reason it's kind of expensive, $1,600 is not cheap for a notebook. So you're paying for the portability portion of that. You're paying in order to get all this power in an 11-inch, less than 4-pound notebook, right? So I mean, he like I said, he came away impressed. He gave it the gold award. He's always a little bit kind of jaded, I guess, from all the machines that he sees. He says, "Is this a good laptop?" No. The keyboard is far too small for many people to use on a daily basis. Too much heat is produced, and battery life isn't great. Using this laptop isn't or every day isn't optimal. But he goes on to talk about, because despite those flaws, it becomes a really good gaming portable notebook. If you want to purchase a gaming machine that you can pack into a small bag, this is it. End of story. And I think those are the kind of trade-offs you'll get back and forth. Yes, the shining gold review.
Shiny.
Gold award. It is very shiny now. All right, we're going to talk about some news items. Before we do that, we'll take a quick break for today's ad from our friends at MSI. All right, thank you, MSI, for that. So it was a little bit of a kind of a shortish, slowish news week. We'll see how much of this discussion we actually want to get into. The first thing, I don't know, Josh, if you saw the new Radeon HD 7000 pricing kind of made official from AMD, and if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's about time. The Gigahertz edition is $499. The regular version of the 7970 is what, $449, and then they dropped everything. Oh, is it $429 now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can't remember exact prices, but like the 7950 is what, $349.
$349. And it goes down to $299.
7870, $289, and going down. I mean, this is something that has been definitely needed for quite some time since NVIDIA released the GTX 680. And in fact,
right,
from my point of view, when the 7000 series were first released, I thought that they were way overpriced as compared to what we have seen historically, not just from AMD, but also from NVIDIA. And so if you remember, the first 7970 was $549, and then they went down there, and you could find a HD 7870 for $399, and yeah, it was faster than the $360 HD 6970, but not by much. But these were cheaper cards to produce, and every other year that we've seen a new generation of architecture, the top performance has then gone down a big notch, and you pay less for what was last generation's top performance. But this time you actually paid a little bit more, and even though it was a little faster, wasn't significantly so. And so it's finally nice to see that AMD has either got their head out, or they've met some certain kind of supply quota or something, but they finally lowered the prices to where it's a lot more palatable for people like you. Well, okay, maybe not you, but me, and maybe Ken. Well, except he runs only Mac, so he wouldn't be able to buy one, so what's the point? Alan, maybe? No, Alan's all NVIDIA. Yeah, I just don't know who the hell these cards are good for. So
they're good. I mean, they're the reason they're not good for me is because I don't buy video cards anymore. I get enough of those. I agree. I think the price drops are really necessary, and it creates much more interesting discussions now. So they kind of pits the HD 7970 basic card against the GTX 670, right? Because it's still priced at $399. And it pits the the 349. There's no Kepler answer from NVIDIA yet at the 349 price point.
So anything at a GTX 670 and up from the GTX 630, 640, it's a large void.
Yes.
Like that guy we were talking about earlier, except that was not a void.
No, not a void. And I'm hoping, based on the rumors we talked about last week, that we'll maybe have an answer in terms of the Kepler mid-range stuff sometime in August. So we will see. What else is in the news? Oh, yeah. I did a GPU stock update again as of July 17th, so just yesterday from this recording. And interesting things. First, we saw all the price drops on those 79,000 or 77,000 cards from AMD. 7970 we did find for $429. 7950 we did find for $349, and on down the stack. The Radeon 7970 gigahertz edition is still not in stock. For a card that we actually reviewed, when was that?
2 weeks ago?
I think it's been longer than
Going on 3?
June 22nd, almost a month.
Oh, wow.
Almost a full month. And to be fair, what they told us when we got them, it's like they're going to be available shortly thereafter, right? But I think 4 weeks is more than shortly thereafter. So they, here's what's interesting about it. If you go to Newegg, let's say you go to our stock check page and you click on that link that says starting at $429, and you change it from lowest price to highest price. What you're going to see is that once you get past like the water cooled and the crazy priced ones, you'll find like Power Color has a 7973 gigabyte card that has a core clock of 1100 megahertz, and it's selling for $459.
429 with a rebate.
Stinking cheap.
Right. Diamond has one selling for $459 at 1025. Gigabyte has one for $439 running at 1000 megahertz. And the reason this creates a problem is because XFX has one running at 1000 megahertz for $429. So for the same price as a base one, you can get a gigahertz edition without the gigahertz edition moniker on it for $80 less or $70 less. And I think this might have something to do with the problem. I don't think AMD's partners were very excited about the idea of a gigahertz edition. The only people that are priced higher than that, like if you get the MSI Lightning card, it's $519. So now you're talking about only $20 difference for that, as Josh will vouch for, a drastically over-engineered almost PCB and stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's running at 1070 megahertz.
Right. So, I mean, you're getting a higher overclock, possibly a better engineered board, better cooling, better heat, definitely better cooling and heat sinks and that kind of stuff and fans for $20 less or $20 more. So the fact that you can get an 1100 megahertz power color card, that's crazy for $439 after a rebate, which is $60 less than the gigahertz edition. There's almost no room for the gigahertz edition because, to be honest, like the whole power tune with boost, who cares if your card can go from 1000 megahertz up to 1050? If your card you're buying is at 1050 or more for less dollars, that's obviously the route you want to go. I'm trying to remember, were there other things in the gigahertz edition that would matter, that would make a difference other than that?
Supposedly better binning on the chips, and
yeah,
they keep promising that you're getting the higher clock speeds at the same TDPs, but the samples that you had significantly higher TDPs.
Not the case, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting on the AMD side now. I think the price of the 7970 base today makes it a very compelling option against the GTX 670 and maybe even the GTX 680. Right? If you can talk about, well, is the performance advantage you get from a GTX 680 really worth $70 difference? Maybe not, right? That's a legitimate question. I
kind of look at this and I wonder if, in fact, this isn't AMD just trying to tell everybody in kind of a big way, hey, these overclocked versions that we have, they're not only just as fast as the GTX 680, but at 1050, they're faster. And so,
oh sure,
it seems like that they're using this launch to get the word out, and of course they're letting all their partners put out these specialty cards which are clocked at 1000, 1050, 1070, 1100, and people look at it and are like, oh my gosh, I get gigahertz plus for $429, $60 less.
I think you're probably right. So they're just using the gigahertz edition launch as a, hey, we have better options available now for less money. I think that would work. I think just as a marketing, I think they should just be advertising that, right? Look, here's some partner SKUs that are running at 15% higher clocks for 15% less money than at launch, 20% less money than at launch, those types of things. But anyway, on the NVIDIA side, at the time of the publication yesterday, there were no GTX 690s in stock. But as I click that link today, there are two in stock. There's an EVGA for $999, and there's an EVGA Signature for $1049. Now, if you say, Ryan, what's the Signature edition and why is it better? And I will tell you, I don't know, man, because they're both pretty much identical looking to me. Looks like the Signature edition comes in a cooler box. Because of the mouse
signed
pad.
by Joe Darwin.
Yeah.
It does come with a mouse pad. It does come with a rather large mouse pad. Ooh. At that point, if you're spending $1,000, what's 50 more, right, guys? But the 680s are in stock still. The 670s are in stock still. It seems like we are out of the we are long out of the world worrying about whether or not NVIDIA cards were in stock or not. GTX 680s, as I click that link today, I see at least, I don't know, 24 of them in stock, ranging all the way up to 600. Wow, really? $659? $659 for the EVGA GTX 680 classified 4 GB edition, running at a core clock of 1111. It's amazing. It's the same combination as my luggage. So that's it. That's
before.
Yeah, don't tell everybody. Other news: graphics card launches. Sapphire apparently is launching a 6 GB single GPU card with the moniker of Toxic 7970. Jeremy, did you look at this news at all that Tim wrote up for us? Not only I think there's anything super dramatic here, but
well, it's not an incredible change or anything like that. But if you're running a whole bunch of different monitors, 6 GB of memory is really going to help. Your frame buffer will just be obnoxiously large. And the other nice thing that comes with it is the lethal boost button, which essentially cranks the base clock speed of 1100 megahertz up to 1200. The memory also goes from 6 to 6.4 gigahertz effective, which, is not too bad for the push of a button.
That is a pretty cool button name, by the way.
It is lethal.
Lethal.
So
boost
if you're looking for a super high-end card, and hopefully it comes out at a reasonable price, and it isn't going to be
680.
680 is
not super reasonable.
No, it seems a little high, especially with the new prices that we've got going now. But hey, on the other hand, if you want to fit 6 gigs of video memory into 2 slots, go for it.
Yeah.
I think the only resolutions that would really be good for is if you had 3 2560 by 1600 monitors in Infinity, and then you'd need 2 cards to really drive that. Because when you're looking at the 57 by
1080,
yeah,
1080 or 1200, a single 7970 is going to push them pretty well. You're not going to be able to play Battlefield 3 and Ultra very well. I mean, it'll get choppy.
Loser.
But, yeah, I know. You drop it down a little bit in 3 monitors, and it runs fine. But I think that when we're starting to look at it, 3 gigs is still a lot of memory on a single board. And it's for regular Infinity resolutions, that's not going to be holding you back. I mean, we only see about 10 to 15% performance increase going from 2 gigs to 3 gigs at these widescreen, Infinity surround resolutions. I think 6 gigs right now is just overkill considering the power of the GPU. Now, eventually that
2 gigs will
improve.
Will always be. Nobody will ever need more than 2 gigs.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you're not going to see the benefit of the larger memory when your GPU is just getting choked so much. Yeah. Now, the next generation after this, having 6 gigs in there and being able to run, 3 of those 30-inch monitors or 3 of Ken's, 27 inches, which that just does not sound correct coming off my tongue. But anyway.
So what's interesting is I just got this Galaxy card in. This is an overclocked GTX 670, and you can't see it down here. It has a 4 gig frame buffer, and this is what I'm going to be interested to. I haven't used any of the 4 gig Kepler cards yet, so I don't think we'll see any big performance difference at the single resolution displays. But we do have our 5760 by 1080 screen set up, and it may be time for us to upgrade those to 3 of these cat leaps or shimmians or whatever name you want to call them, for that exact reason that you're talking about, Josh. But I am very curious to see how this Galaxy GTX 670 GC card, how performance changes going from a 2 gig to a 4 gig frame buffer. So that you can look for this in the next.
You're going to see a difference at even 2560 by 1600. I mean, anything
just not
19
super dramatic.
It's not going to be as dramatic, but yeah, once you go to the 57 by 12 or 67 by 10, you'll have 57 by 10. You'll probably see a little bit more.
Yeah.
Also be interesting to see how it deals with GPU-enabled computing, like folding at home and SETI at home. Don't know that it would have much impact, but it'd be interesting to find out.
Well, that's the cruddy thing about the Kepler architecture is it already kind of stinks at that.
Yeah, well, maybe this will help it out a bit.
The desktop
I doubt
version
it,
stinks because of the double precision stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see other interesting, well, not really interesting graphics card news. Point of View. I don't know. Launches an overclocked GT 640. They're going to need to do a lot of overclocking to make that a worthwhile card. That was in there. Actually, that news maybe not as super as exciting as maybe we would like. Let me do a search real quick. I want to see, has the GT 640 price come down at all on that part? Because that was the only really saving grace that it was going to come up with. No. 99, 2 at 99, the rest of them at 109 and above. So GT 640 still not on our recommended list. Let's move away from graphics cards now. Jeremy, I don't know how up your alley this is about discussing the new Microsoft Office 2013 custom preview. You excited? You excited about this? Yeah?
Oh, yes. Oh, I cannot imagine a productivity suite specifically designed for use in an office, which is part of the design they've incorporated social networking into. Because that is what every enterprise wants, is their employees to be able to be looking like they're looking at Outlook or Word, but actually being on their Facebook. And this is just a brilliant idea. The idea that you sign up for a live storage, so now you're never really quite sure where it is that Office document you just got saved.
Oh,
and
don't be a cloud fuddy-duddy. You can be fuddy-duddy about the social networking, but not about the cloud.
Oh,
the cloud allows us to exist.
Well, there is that, but we don't keep all of our important stuff on the cloud, do we?
I do.
We just post the good stuff.
Nobody else can
Just
access your information that's on the cloud. Yeah. Nobody else.
Nope.
NSA, they don't have any fingers in the cloud. Hell no.
Yeah, but ask Alan when he comes back, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, if they really needed stuff to go on the cloud for them to access it. Don't worry.
Ask him if the Navy
Microsoft
stores
has all
stuff
their
on the
hooks
cloud.
in there. So
yeah,
right.
But on the other hand, for smaller use. For non-enterprise, if you go for the other 3 flavors, the Home Premium, Small Business Premium, and Pro Plus, all of a sudden it starts to look a little more interesting because the SkyDrive storage, 20 gigs of free storage space, synced on up to 5 computers. So you can pretty much walk around the office, get exactly what it is that you had working on in one computer to another one. You get free storage. You get 60 minutes a month free Skype calling, which again, kind of makes a lot of sense. Microsoft owns Skype now, so why not bundle it in with Office so that they can take on the Ciscos and that which try and provide live teleconferencing by just integrating it straight in. So it could be a little bit interesting. Then there's the Metro interface. As with the other one, you get a lot of white space. You get a lot of what feels like wasted space. There's just no reason for these giant blank spaces on your screen. On the other hand, because of the Metro interface, there's a lot more touch integrated in this, which could be very useful for a lot of people if they're freehand drawing in PowerPoint. Or
I'm a fan of that.
It was an interesting announcement, but the second that you think about it, it's like, and touchscreen Excel is going to help me how? One of the things we don't like about cell phones is that it's a little bit hard to type.
Monitor pokers even worse because they're going to be hitting the cells that they're wanting to put crap to.
My finger's too fat. I didn't mean to do that.
Just a giant fingerprint on their screen. It's horrific.
Well, Josh, they're already there.
The horror.
And it's not a touch screen. So it'll be interesting to see. And overall, I could see this being interesting for small businesses, for home users. For the enterprise, unless there's some really, really impressive back-end stuff that we just didn't see in the consumer preview, I just don't think it's going to catch on, much like I don't think Windows 8 is going to catch on.
Yeah. Fair enough. We'll see. We will see. I don't really use Office for anything. Well, I guess I can't say that. I still write things in Word and make Excel documents, which is really exciting.
So just think those graphs.
You got a graph,
touch.
Tim wanted us to point out the ProLimaTech. That ProLimaTech showed off a blue Mega Halum CPU cooler which I do believe actually looks pretty cool. I agree with Tim on that. The kind of the blue coloring on the heatsink fins is actually
like vinyl on your car makes it go faster. The blued aluminum fins cool better.
Right. It's glossy blue too, so that's doubly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be compatible with 1156, 1155, 775, 1366, 2001, 6 heat pipes. Apparently a lot of cooling potential there. We'll have more details on that once we actually get the heatsink in-house. We actually, something we noticed here at the office, we have a lot of everything except every time we build a system, like we were building a system to QuakeCon for streaming purposes. And we were like, oh yeah, we'll just take that motherboard and that Ivy Bridge processor and that SSD and boom, you got a system. And we're always like, we don't have a heatsink. We never really have heat sinks for anything. No.
Because they're such a pain in the butt to review.
They are. So Alan's not here, but we have a couple of SSD things we'll touch on. One, Intel added a 240 gig model in their SandForce line and lowered the prices of their SSDs, which is...
Wait, the 330 series, I thought that was their original controller that was in their 80 gig and then later the 160 gig. Or am I totally... smoking crack?
No, this is SandForce.
Nope, it is the SandForce. I'm sorry.
Yeah, SF2281.
Okay.
Stop smoking stuff.
Stop
especially
smoking
on the
the crack.
podcast, Josh. So yeah, they did
that's
that.
my
Obviously,
job.
they're lowering prices to obviously we'll talk about some of the price drops that we've seen. We talked about them last week as well, just how much these SSD prices are dropping. What's interesting now is Intel is a much larger company, and so it seems to me that it would take longer for them to respond to these types of market conditions, as opposed to like OCZ or Corsair or any Samsung even in terms of their actual SSD department. So we'll see if once again the Intel SSDs become prohibitively expensive compared to the competition. There was also rumors of MSI possibly working on a SandForce-based SSD because the MSI logo showed up on the SandForce website under their partners list. While it's possible they're doing that, maybe it's more likely they're building a motherboard with an SSD built on or something like that. That's probably maybe more up their avenue there. Yeah. Alan believes it may be a company just integrating an mSATA SSD on its motherboard. We've seen that from a couple other guys as well. And just today, during a financial call, OCZ kind of pre-announced the IndyLinks Barefoot 3 controller. We don't really know anything else about it other than this may in fact be the first controller developed completely in a post-purchased IndyLinks company, right? So this may be the first controller that comes out that has OCZ all the way through it, right? So we'll see if it's a custom chip, if it's a kind of a rebadged thing, if there's any really performance or longevity improvements made to this controller, but no real details on it.
Well, they did provide a few.
Did they? Okay.
It is going to be. They said that they're going to license the CPU technology in there. However, they say it's more focused on storage type instructions than it is a general purpose CPU. So this could be kind of a subset of ARM or something that they've licensed from ARM and then kind of injected their own IndyLinks mojo into. But they said it is going to be significantly different than what we have seen before. And a lot of the processing involved is not going to be, hey, this is an ARM processor, we're going to program it so it does all of these, I/O type things. Well, this is going to be supposedly more I/O centric and more storage centric than previous generations of products. And so there's some thought that in fact this is going to be a step up from the Samsung 830 controller, or a step up from the SandForce 2, and better than what Marvell has. But they've still got a lot of hurdles to go, because where a lot of the magic happens is in the firmware. And while IndyLink seems to be doing pretty well on the firmware side, it's still brand new silicon. It's going to be a brand new product. Nothing else has been seen quite like this. And so it's going to be interesting to see how well they pull this off. Now, I mean, we kind of take a look back at the Vertex 4, and even though that's based on well-known Marvell silicon, IndyLinks was able to do some interesting things with the firmware, and over a pretty short period of time, of only a couple of months, we saw performance on that part go from pretty average to, and somewhat cruddy at times, to now pretty darn solid, really fast, almost industry leading in some aspects.
Right.
And so we're kind of hoping to see that this new silicon and some of the firmware magic that the IndyLinks guys seem to be able to do will result in a more interesting product. Now, what we don't know is what exactly kind of NAND memory they're going to be using for that, the flash, because what we're now going to the sub 20 nanometer stuff that should be introduced around the same time this is. But we don't think that the initial models will come with this, these larger density, smaller geometry chips that we're hoping to see.
Right. Other news, I did post a kind of a really short one-pager. I don't really want to call it a review. That's why I call it a quick look at the new Retina MacBook Pro from a PC perspective. See what I did there? See how I worked that right in the title? Yeah? Guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, so this is the new MacBook Pro, 15-inch, 20. Obviously, the defining feature of it is a 2880 by 1800 screen on it, and put Windows 7 on it, courtesy of Boot Camp. The hardware in it is an Ivy Bridge Core i7 3720QM. It does have a GeForce GT 650M GPU, 512 gig SSD, USB 3.0, Thunderbolt. What I find interesting here is that the computing technology in here, the processor, the GPU, SSD, USB 3, is almost identical to the Origin Eon 11S that we talked about at the beginning of the show. That is an 11-inch machine. I just want to show you, talk about, kind of mention the versatility of that Intel hardware, how different, how varying the hardware that it, or case that it can be put into, I guess. That's what I'm saying here. Real quick kind of rundown of this. On a 15-inch screen, Windows allows you to run this display at its native 2880 by 1800 resolution, which is probably not a good idea in the long run, right? It's cool to look at. It's great to see, but unless you go into your Windows settings and adjust, your kind of font sizes, your DPI settings or something like that, something that will help make the icons bigger and the text bigger, so you actually read it at a kind of a standard viewing distance, I guess. It's not as cool as it might originally sound. Now, in terms of just pixel clarity, it's awesome looking. On the video version, even on coming back to me over Skype, when you zoom in on those icons, it looks pretty impressive, and maybe also cool to look at, but not very useful on this configuration was, I played Skyrim at 2080 by 1800 on a 15-inch screen. I have a screenshot in here you can click on and view the full 2880 by 1800 image, but it really doesn't even give you the same effect unless you're looking at that in a 15-inch window, right? It's pretty
on
impressive.
A Retina display,
right?
Yeah.
Right. You really have to see it, but it's cool to see how big that, even if you've got a 25, if you've got a 30-inch panel, this image it uses more pixels than that, and it's on a 15-inch monitor. So yeah, you get an idea there just in the video version, like how it scales with everything. I don't even know if we'll be able to move around the image. Yeah, there. So it was really cool, right? If this had a significant amount of GPU horsepower, and you'd be able to play games at that resolution, that would be awesome. It does not have a significant enough amount of GPU horsepower to do that. But I was able to play, like, we have a 3D Mark 11 score there, but I could play Metro 2033 at 1080p, Skyrim at 1080p, all that stuff that you would expect, right? Fairly well. I actually have two screenshots here that show you. They're actually not screenshots; they're photos that I took of the screen at 2880 by 1800 with the Steam window up, and at 1920 by 1080 or 1920 by 1200 with the Steam window up, to give you kind of an idea of how the screen real estate really changes. If you just kind of like scroll back and forth between those two, you'll see how the real estate changes based on that resolution. Also, you'll notice that even though Windows tries to do a pretty good job of, like, when you open up the control panel, increasing the size of text and icons, Steam does not. So at 2880 by 1800, those, like, the listing of the games in that left column of the Steam control panel is really tiny.
Small.
Yeah.
Small.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a great machine. It really is, just in terms of hardware build. I'm not a Mac user, and I don't really want to move over to the Mac OS. So if I bought this hardware, I would just run Windows on it the full time. And I don't think, at least right now, that it really makes a lot of sense to pay $800 or $600 more than a normal MacBook Pro to get this specific hardware configuration. Even though I love the screen quality, I love the trackpad, I love kind of the hardware build and all that kind of stuff of the machine. Yeah, I mean, it's a really impressive piece of hardware, but at $2,300, I would pass on it unless I had Intel money, I guess is what I'm saying. So there's a rumor going around that Desktop Trinity may be delayed. Anybody wanted to tell me about that, or retarded, depending on your definition of the word? Which I applaud Jeremy in the comments of this news post for.
Well, and unfortunately, the Motorheads didn't get it because there was actually a little bit of the awkward pun about talking about advancing your timing, and in this case, reducing your timing.
Retarding it.
Yes. The bad news is that, we've been waiting for quite a while to see Trinity on the desktop. We've seen it on laptops for, quite a while now, but not on the desktop. And AMD just gave us the wonderful news that it's going to be a little bit longer. They're more likely, as opposed to a rough August date. So, I mean, we're getting close. It's now somewhere in October. It's to adjust the design of the processor. Now, this could be a really bad thing in that it's talking about they're seeing serious problems with the amount of yield that they're getting. Or it could just be that they've sort of said, we've been working on this for a while. I think we can make this come out a little bit more efficiently and a little bit faster. Either way, it's going to be a little bit longer. And the best thing is that when it actually does launch, you're going to have to be very careful about the AMD board that you buy, because there'll be AM3, AM3 Plus, FM1, FM2, and FT1. This may get confusing.
We don't have to worry about FT1 because those
true, that's a while.
Board.
Yeah, Brazos 2.0 is going to be even more retarded.
Yeah, I think I found out a couple of things about this. One,
go for it.
There's too much stock of Llano. Hence why Ryan is getting 100 CPUs just being thrown at him. That's essentially $11,000 worth of chips that AMD is donating to the PC Perspective Hardware Workshop.
Awesome for us and everybody else
in the channel. Now, what they are working on is, I don't even know if I should be saying this, but I'll go ahead and do it. They're working on AMP. You ask what AMP is.
What is AMP, Josh?
No, I wasn't going to.
AMD memory profiles. Like XM4 it.
Oh, really?
On AMP, and they're trying to get a good low-level implementation of this because, as you remember, Trinity is now it's a GCN-based architecture, and I think it's not fully integrated in terms of memory.
Trinity's still one or two steps behind.
Yeah, but it's a little bit closer, and it really is dependent on memory performance for optimal CPU and GPU performance. So I think this is something that AMD is working on. There may be some silicon revisions going on there as compared to what's on the laptop, but I think they're just getting everything in place so that when this is released, you can plug in DIMMs. They'll have the AMP settings on there. and you'll get the best potential performance out of whatever DIMM sets you buy for this product. So those are the two things that are really adding to this being delayed, or as Jeremy says, retarded.
Right. Well, the second reason makes more sense to me. The first reason, well, they're swapping out the gigahertz edition with already a market flooded with 7970s. They've never really shown much compassion to their resellers in the recent history. They just happily release new stuff on top of new stuff on top of new stuff. But memory profiles, okay, I could see that. Makes sense. And it would probably require a little bit of change on the chip too, wouldn't it?
Potentially, yes.
All right. One last quick bit of news. Microsoft did announce or unveil the launch day of Windows 8, October 26th, 2012. Set your calendars, everybody. Get ready for the midnight releases. But probably don't. What's cool, though, is that they are apparently going to sell it for $39. Upgrade or full version, not going to be a difference there. So $39 to upgrade to Windows 8. I think that is a smart move in order to get people. What they want is as many people as possible to upgrade to Windows 8 so that they can start pushing this new kind of interface onto developers as well. And they can say, look at how many millions of people are using Windows 8. Whether or not they really need Windows 8, but if it's only $40, you're much more likely to upgrade your system, I think, in the long run. So there you go. There, October 26th, the countdown has begun until Armageddon of upgrade cycles. So, Jeremy, Josh, and your IT worlds, get ready for everybody to request Windows 8 on their new laptops.
And I will laugh and laugh and laugh.
You will do it.
No.
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 Well, let's move
But
on.
there will be
to,
whining about touchscreens. I know there will be whining about touchscreens.
They all want touch screens. They want to touch your laptops, Jeremy. Just roll with it.
Why is the screen so dirty all the time, too? I want you to fix that.
Give me some of that fancy cleaner stuff. All right, let's move into our hardware software picks of the week. My hardware pick is kind of interesting. I got notifications from OCZ about a special that's going to be starting, I think, as we're recording this, in about 45 minutes. It's running from July 19th to the 21st, so just a few days. They're running a special through Micro... No. Is it Micro Center? I think it's Micro Center. On Vertex 4 SSDs. So these are pretty good prices. How about a 256 gig Vertex 4 for $199? That comes down to, everybody, let me get out my fancy schmancy calculator. 77 cents per gigabyte. 77 cents per gigabyte. The 64 gig version will be $69. 128 gig version will be $104. And the 512 gig version will be $529. So the 256 gig is obviously the sweet spot in terms of best price per gig at 77 pennies per gigabyte. So look for that. And if you just go to PCPro.com, we'll see they'll be running ads for this particular special, actually. So, Jeremy, what do you got?
Well, having had a special hate on for installing heat sinks for a long time, although I have to admit that, it's getting much better. The idea that Sony is going to be putting out thermal sheets as opposed to thermal paste just, warms a special part of my heart, because no longer will you be trying to smear things onto a desktop processor blindfolded. You should just be able to pull out what sounds like is going to be 0.3 millimeter thick weaved material, so it shouldn't completely just pull apart on you. And it may well mean that when you buy the heatsink, you're not going to have to spend 20 minutes cleaning the goop off, because from the testing, they're claiming equal performance, and from the demo, as you can see, they actually beat the thermal paste by 3 degrees. So it's going to be interesting. The other nice thing, it's going to age better. So you're not going to watch your CPU temperature slowly climb and sit there staring at it thinking, I really don't want to take the heatsink off and clean it all up and then reapply the paste again, and the goop, it goes everywhere. Yeah, just slap on a sheet. Forget about it.
Cool. Josh?
Okay. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed The MSI R7950, well, it was probably the HD 7950 Twin Frozer 3 OC. This card was a little overpriced at the time, 400 and some. Well, now it's like $319 or $329. $309 after rebate. The damn thing is a smoking fast card. It's overclocked out of the box, so it goes a little faster. And I was able to take that much, much higher, pretty stable, and it was able to match and exceed a 7970 at stock speed. So, for that amount of money, that's dirt cheap. You get the 3 gigs of memory on board, nice cooling. It was a very quiet card, didn't pull all that much power. $329. That's a fantastic price for the card.
That is really good, actually. That's really good. Ellen's not here, so he recommends Jack All. Tim did put a recommendation in here. Tim, who is one of our primary news guys and who put together our show notes today for us. Thank you very much, Tim. Is recommending the Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion on Steam sale today for $29.99. Is that a good deal? Did you guys buy that?
I've spent a lot of hours on that stinking game. So yes,
I've never played any of these games.
Oh, how have you not?
I've never played any of them. Is that bad?
Yes.
Hey, it's cheap. Give it a shot.
What kind of game is it? Is it a blow 'em up game?
It's a real-time strategy based on space warfare, colonization, and economy building.
Can I make my ship specific colors?
Yes. You could have a fuchsia battleship like Matt Smith had.
I saw that. That's why I brought that up.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And this is a full game, not an expansion, I assume?
Full game.
Full game. Well, if I'm going to buy it, maybe I should just buy the Stardock collection that comes with Sins of a Solar Empire Trinity, Galactic Civilizations 2 Ultimate Edition, Demigod, and Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion.
I hope Galciv 2 was free to that because it wouldn't be worth it otherwise. Horribly disappointed in that game.
Yeah, I think Rebellion pretty much covers everything that was in Trinity.
Okay. All right.
So unless you really want Demigod, whatever that is.
Sounds good. All right. That is going to wrap up the show for us this week, everybody. Make sure, again, a reminder, pcper.com/live is the place you'll go to catch our live streams, our video streams when we record the show. If you go to any pcper.com page, including just the homepage, you'll see the schedule on the right-hand side so you can get an idea of when we're going to be recording the podcasts going forward. I think we have one more week where our favorite Board Op Burke will be behind the controls. I may actually be up. I may actually be up in Petaluma next week. We'll see. We'll see if I make a special trip up there. Maybe not both days, but at least one of the days. And then, of course, if you want to spread the word of our podcast, we would really, really, really appreciate it. pcper.com/podcast is the really, really easy URL to give them there. There they can find the links to the show on iTunes. They can find links to the RSS feed, to subscribe on any other kind of podcatcher they may be using. So we really appreciate that. And of course, follow PC Perspective on all of the usual places, twitter.com/PCPer, facebook.com/PCPer, gplus.to/PCPer, youtube.com/PCPer, pcper.com/PCPer. That's not one. And of course, final reminder, QuakeCon Hardware Workshop, August 4th. Make sure you sign up. You don't have to sign up, but set a reminder. You'll want to be in, if you're anywhere near the Dallas area and you want to come in, it's a lot of fun. It's completely free, by the way, QuakeCon. Even the BYOC is free. If you don't get one of like the super early reserve spots, it's completely free for you to go bring your PC and hang out and game for 3 or 4 days, which is really, really awesome. And plus they have some great exhibitors are going to have some cool stuff to show off, including us on Saturday in the early afternoon. So hopefully by next week I'll have the exact time and everything ready for you guys. But you can check that out, pcper.com/workshop. So that is our glutton of URLs to end of the show. With that, we will see you next week, everybody. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
Look at my horse.
Look at my horse. Play it. I don't. You know, what kind of
Apparently-
disturbs me is that woman's head just came up from the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, and then it started bouncing
She
around.
was having some lemonade.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Lemonade is made, sweet lemonade, sweet lemonade, sweet lemonade, yeah, sweet lemonade.